Hey guys, welcome back to another impressions video on Chibi-Robo Lash for the Nintendo 3DS. Yet another platformer that I'll be giving my thoughts on, and that's perfectly fine with me because I love platformers and it's one of my favorite genres, if not my favorite. So I was excited for this game, and at the same time a little bit surprised considering other previous Chibi-Robo games were not platformers. So I thought Nintendo took a surprise decision when they did that, but that was fine with me because, like I said, I just simply love side-scrolling platformers. And of course, I got the Amiibo version, as you can see here. It came with this very cool-looking Chibi-Robo Amiibo, which has a fantastic look to it. I really love the texture on the base. It has this grass-like texture, and then of course a pretty smooth paint job, giving the impression of a metal body and the little plug on top of its head. So very happy to get this Amiibo because I think it's really one of the most detailed ones in my opinion. But let's talk about the game. Obviously, story wise, it's a Nintendo platformer, but basically there are aliens that are invading the planet, and basically Chibi-Robo has to put a stop to them. That's the story. But of course, what we focus on when we talk about Nintendo platformers is the gameplay, which is, I'll just jump right into it. There have been mixed opinions about this game, and for the most part, there have been some negative reviews regarding Chibi-Robo. So I was a little bit concerned, but at the same time, I do have to agree with those reviews in some regards. Let me just say that overall, I found this game to be enjoyable. I had a pretty good time with it, but there are some questionable design decisions that are just infuriating that I will be developing. Let's talk about the positives first. It's a very charming side-scrolling platforming game that it's not for everybody, in the sense that this is a slower paced platformer because your character here, Chibi-Robo, he has two different moves, which are the using the zip lash, or his plug basically. You can do a quick whip basically, or you can do a charge whip that has a longer range, and it allows you to bounce off walls and things like that to either get items or to grab or hook into certain surfaces that will allow you to, being pulled you through the level. So in that regard, sometimes there's a lot of slower paced levels because you have to stop, you have to shoot your zip lash in order to attach to other surfaces. So there's a lot of stop and go as far as the levels in the game. Another thing that also slows the I guess the pace of the game is that the levels are bigger than your normal or your average platformers. If you guys have played, Yoshi's Island, for example, or other Yoshi games, those games have usually bigger levels, and that's the case with Chibi-Robo. The levels are larger. They take a little bit, or they take a while to complete. And similarly to the Yoshi's games, they also have a lot of collectibles in them. You can collect gold coins or gold medals. You can collect 3 different mini Chibi. Other Chibi-Robo characters that are scattered through or hidden throughout the level. You can pick up candies that you can give to other creatures in certain levels, and they give you rewards based on that. And you can collect your regular coins that are used to purchase things in the game, or to purchase other Chibi-Robo like collectibles in the Amiibo menu. So there are a ton of collectibles. Obviously, you don't have to get all of them, but everything adds to everything that I mentioned adds to a slower pace type of gameplay. I do think that a lot of reviewers fail to mention that you can speed up the gameplay a little bit if you know how to play the game. If you use the L and R button, you can roll your Chibi-Robo character, or if you use the L button as you're, for example, charging your whip, you can cancel that motion. So good players out there, they have a faster type of paced gameplay, but nevertheless, when everything is said and done, it is slower than your average platformer game. So keep that in mind when before you buy this game, I guess. Another thing that I really hated as far as the gameplay is your hovering controls, if you want to call it that. If you jump and hold the X button, Chibi-Robo basically spins around his plug, and that allows him to hover or to float for a few brief seconds. But there's very little momentum. Like, even if you're running and you jump and you activate your helicopter, let's call it that, all the momentum that you were carrying stops, and you have a very, very slow progression, forward motion that, in my opinion, it would have been more fun if it has like more momentum and a more higher speed when you're controlling your character. So it's really frustrating when you're trying to get very precise as far as where you're going to land, or when you're trying to land on top of a platform. That helicopter move is not very very useful, or not very precise, because of the slowness of it. So that's another critique that I have for this game. But the one really big negative thing, and this baffles me, and I'm still I'm scratching my head trying to figure it out, how did this game came out of, Nintendo. Nobody can argue this. Nintendo, they are the masters of platforming games. They have been doing this for over 30 years. When it comes to platforming games, Nintendo, they put up the best quality products out there. But Chibi-Robo Lash has this very infuriating and just frustrating feature where after you beat a level, you have to spin this wheel. It's like a prize wheel that has numbers on it. Numbers that range from usually from 1 to 3. And depending on the number that you get, that's the number of spaces you're going to move in the overworld map. So the game has, I believe, 6 worlds. I think it was 6 worlds, and then each world has 6 levels. So say you're playing level 1-1, you beat 1-1, you roll that spin wheel at the end of the level, and let's say you get a 2. Well, you're gonna go up 2 spaces, so you're gonna bypass level 1-2, and you're gonna land in level 1-3. So a pretty silly thing, because I'm a fan of natural progression in games. So I just want to play level 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, all the way up until 1-6, and then face the boss of that particular world. But Chibi-Robo, for example, if you get a 2, you're going to bypass level 1-2, and you're going to play level 1-3. The problem is that once you get to the end of the loop, if you want to call it that, you have to beat all 6 levels in order to face the boss battle, and then move on into the next world. And the problem is that you have to rely on getting the exact number in order to play all the levels within that overworld, which is really, really frustrating. And it happened to me when I was playing world number 2. I was in world 2-5, and I obviously needed a 1 on the prize wheel in order to go to 2-6 and then face the boss after completing that level. But my spin wheel had like a number 3 in it, and it just so happens that it landed on number 3, and I had to redo the loop. I had to rebeat previous levels, because that's the other thing. You have to rebeat levels that you already previously played in order to get that prize wheel at the end of the level and go back to rolling that thing and hope that you get the number that you're looking for. There is a way to bypass this, which is by buying panels. You can buy panels with the number that you need, but it's a very cumbersome process, because say you need a 3, and you need a 3 to complete that very last level. You have to buy, I think, 6 panels that have the 3, the number 3, in order to have a 100% chance of landing on that level that is missing for you to complete that world. Extremely frustrating. It's you have to buy a panel each, and then each panel costs 120 coins. You get the coins by playing levels. Money is not really the issue. You collect a lot of coins throughout the levels, and even more so if you have amiibos. If you scan any amiibo, like a Mario amiibo, a Yoshi amiibo, you get coins by doing that. So that shouldn't be a problem, but it's just a very frustrating and very odd design decision by Nintendo, by whoever designed. I don't know who I guess I should have looked in detail who the level design was, who was in charge of the level design. But in that regard, I get the feeling that this game was shipped out to the younger developers that Nintendo has, and it's unfortunate, because it's a glaring design issue that really bothered me in this game. Graphic wise, the game is a 3D based, like the character models and the like the platforms, everything is in 3D, which takes a little bit out of the charm of side-scrolling platforming. Sometimes, personally, I prefer the ones that are 2D because they're timeless in how they look. But I do have to say that Chibi-Robo Zip Lash is pretty pleasant to look at, pretty colorful, and the 3D effect actually is pretty good in this game. I was actually playing it with the 3D on at full level, so it was pretty nice looking game, but nothing that will blow you away. The soundtrack is actually pretty pleasant to listen to, pretty appropriate for the game. And one thing that really, going back to the collectibles that I was talking about, one thing that really caught my attention is how you collect candy or snacks in this game, and they're actually based on actual snacks. Like, for example, the Mentos snacks that we have, or the candy, and when you collect it, you can go back to this museum and you can see actually the model of the snack, and it's pretty cool because it has snacks from all around the world, and it's kind of fun to see, you know, snacks from Japan, from Germany, from the US, and so forth. So that was an odd touch, but one thing that I enjoy about Chibi-Robo Zip Lash is, you know, I didn't mind so much this slower gameplay. I enjoy the game for what it is, but it does feel different from a lot of the platformers that I played. Very, very different in the sense that some of the collectibles you get, or how to unlock certain costumes, there is a process that you have to go through, unlock different codes for different costumes that involve posting on Miiverse. Of course, you can just look up the codes online, but there are little small things that add up. And if you're a completionist, you're going to be playing this game a ton, because again, there's a ton of collectibles. There are secret levels that you unlock as well, and there's a lot of like side content. The game itself is pretty short, but there's a lot of reasons for you to come back if you enjoy collecting, you know, collectibles, or unlocking new secret worlds and things like that. So overall, Chibi-Robo Zip Lash, it's an enjoyable platformer, but you have to be very careful when you get this game. If you guys have played other platformers such as Epic Mickey on the 3DS, for example, that's another very slow-paced platformer. So if you guys have played that and maybe you can withstand that slower nature of the game, then this game might be something for you to look at. But I'm really hoping that Nintendo somehow patches that spin wheel thing, because it's downright confusing at this point as to why they would have that that feature in this game. It makes the game really, really frustrating. But I'm happy with my purchase. I think I've enjoyed the game, sans, you know, the gripes that I have with some of the, you know, spin wheel things and things like that. But overall, it was an enjoyable platformer, but far from being the normal or the standard Nintendo platformer, which, you know, they have their quality standards are up here, but Chibi-Robo is just far from that quality standard. So that's it for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all later.